Indiana just completed possibly the most improbable run in the history of sports, but at the very least, the most improbable run since the Miracle on Ice in 1980. They make movies about this stuff, guys. To set the scene for you, Indiana, before Curt Cignetti got there, has the most losses in FBS history. Indiana, before Curt Cignetti got there, had 3 combined bowl wins. 3. Indiana just won 3 bowl games in a few weeks. This is going to change college football forever in a lot of ways. And we're going to talk about it on this video. One of the ways it's going to change college football forever, this is probably the biggest way, is since Rivals started recruiting rankings in 2002, every single national champion ever has had at least half of its roster made up of 4- and 5-star players. So that's usually 40-plus players, okay, at the very least. Teams have averaged 67%. Every national champion has averaged a 67% blue chip ratio. So about 50, 60, maybe 70 guys. You know how many 4- and 5-stars Indiana had? 7 4-stars, 0 5-stars. Not even close to that threshold. Indiana is ranked 72nd in the 247 talent composite. Some teams ranked ahead of them? This is going to blow your mind. UNLV, UTSA, Tulane, Boston College. Indiana's in the 70s in that stat. And talent composite, by the way, is a collection of how many 4- and 5-star players you have on your roster. So high school talent, but ratings can change too in the portal. Other teams in the 70s. Toledo, yeah, from the MAC. Texas State, Georgia State, Appalachian State. They make movies about this stuff, guys. Like, I'm genuinely wondering who's going to play Curt Cignetti in the next Disney movie about the 2025-2026 Indiana football team. Could be Brad Pitt. Tom Hanks, maybe. Not sure. Probably going to be a Disney movie. Hoosiers Part 2, perhaps. Gridiron style. This is Hollywood stuff. The type of player development that this coaching staff at Indiana has done is a type of player development we've never seen in the history of sports. Like, I'm not just saying college football. I'm saying sports in general. I just read you some of the teams that Indiana was sitting next to in the talent composite. So what's crazy about this is I just told you, before Indiana came around this year, every single national champion ever had at least half of its roster of 4- and 5-star players. So the expectation was you have to have this much talent to win a national championship. It doesn't matter how good you are at developing players. It doesn't matter how good your coaching staff is. Indiana just took that trend and completely obliterated it. For decades, college football has been trying to play the game a certain way. And Indiana played the game very differently and won. So Indiana winning this game is a win not just for them, but the collective body of the group of 5 of those lower-end Big 12 schools, those lower-end ACC schools, to say, you know what? It can be done. Will it happen? Maybe not, but it can happen. We can play the game of player development and win. The Boise States of the world, the Utahs of the world. It can be done. And if someone went to you and said to your, I don't know, Utah Utes football team or Boise State Broncos football team, we'll say, yeah, you can win a national championship. Doesn't matter that you don't meet the threshold. There was no bit of evidence that you could say in your mind, you could point to and say, yeah, we can. History shows us that we can. Now history says that you can. because this Indiana Hoosiers team, with just 7 4 and 5 stars, 0 5 stars, just went in and won the national championship. And guys, this wasn't just a 10-2 team that kind of squeaked in the playoff. No. They dominated. They beat some of the sport's most prolific brands. They beat Ohio State. They beat Oregon on the road and on a neutral. Multiple possessions. They beat the Tar out of Alabama. They beat Miami. These are some of the sport's biggest brands. So, college football as we know it has changed because there is a new way you can win a national championship. We all knew college football as we know it was dying and being born to a new type of game. I didn't think it would come this fast. Indiana made it come this fast. So, we have no idea what this Indiana player evaluation process is. But whenever it gets out, whenever these schools start poaching these Indiana coordinators and assistant coaches and making them head coaches, the sport's going to change forever. Like, it's going to drastically change forever. Because whatever Indiana is doing, the sport has no idea about right now. We have no idea right now. But in a couple years, these coaching staffs are going to catch on. The process of how people will win national championships will be changed in this sport. Here's another one. How people use the transfer portal will be changed. Now, in terms of Indiana's direct scheme, we can get at least a glimpse of it. We don't know it specifically. In terms of how they evaluate players, still figuring that out. But I did a deep dive because I was so curious into who Indiana has gotten in the portal, what they're looking for in the portal. Here's what I found. This is really interesting stuff. Curt Cignetti had a quote, paraphrasing here, production over potential. That's exactly what he's looking for, but not quite in the way that you would think. So we're going to go position by position here. This is going to be an in-depth video, and we're going to see what he's looking for and his staff is looking for at each position. Quarterback is the hardest position to evaluate in maybe all of sports. You're so dependent on your situation, right? If your receivers don't get open, if you don't have a good offensive line, makes it super hard. So these last 5 years, those of you that track recruiting pretty hardcore, more 5-star quarterbacks have missed since COVID than probably ever. Why is that? I think when you look at high school quarterbacks, sometimes you can get too distracted by their stats, by their tools. Oh my goodness. He's 6'6", 210 pounds, has a cannon of an arm. He threw for 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 2 picks in high school. A lot of these high school teams get so overpowered because the competition gap is crazy wide that sometimes these quarterbacks don't even have to naturally progress past their first read. Their receivers are burning them. And when you see those stats on paper, right, the 30 touchdowns and 2 picks, right, and you see the tools, he's 6'6", 210, he's mobile, he's got an arm, you get kind of enamored by that. But then you realize that, oh, wait, you mean once he gets past his first read, he doesn't quite know what to do? Once he sees a coverage that he's not used to seeing, he doesn't know what to do? I think Curt Cignetti is saying here, we don't have enough of a sample size to truly evaluate quarterbacks coming out of high school. Because the country recently, the entire nation of college football, almost, with the exception of like Julian Sayin and Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers maybe, has kind of whiffed on 5-star quarterbacks. And so Curt Cignetti's saying, we don't have enough of a sample size to evaluate you. We're going to wait until we see you play in college. and see how you respond to that competition gap. We're going to get more data. We're going to use all of our time and resources to evaluate other positions coming out of high school than just QB. So you look at Indiana these last 3 years, they've gone extremely portal heavy at the quarterback position. Curtis Roque from Ohio, Josh Hoover from TCU coming in next year, and obviously Fernando Mendoza this year. Not a single quarterback right now on Kirk Cignetti's roster he got from high school. All of them are from the portal. So Cignetti's staff is thinking, we're not even going to waste our time with evaluating quarterbacks in high school. We see these programs hitting and missing. Because out of high school, it's really, 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 really hard to evaluate a quarterback. His team could be really good. Doesn't matter if he has all those tools. The production can be meaningless if your receivers are getting open like that. Production over potential. Kurt Cignetti is clearly looking for solely production in the quarterback position. Mendoza had 20-plus starts at Cal. Curtis Roque and Josh Hoover, both 30-plus starts at Ohio and TCU. So high schoolers don't have that. So what he's looking for is guys in the college level that have a proven pedigree of just volume, reps, experience, efficiency. I think people are going to see what IU is doing. And because people are missing on freshman QBs, the quarterback position is going to get way more portal heavy. Quarterbacks are going to start transferring left and right. So, the skill positions around your quarterback. Still production over potential, but again, not in the way that you would think. Kurt Cignetti and his staff will rarely, if ever, take a flyer on someone who hasn't proven it. So you're thinking, okay, Harris, what about the running back position? Roman Hemby had 600 yards rushing at Maryland. Isn't that a potential over production type of get in the portal? I want you guys to understand the term hidden production. Hidden production is a big thing in Kirk Cignetti and his staff's player evaluation process. Maryland, as a team, when Roman Hemby wasn't running the ball, this is Indiana's starting running back, by the way, who they got from Maryland. Okay. Maryland was averaging 3.1 yards per carry for them. Roman Hemby was averaging 4.7 yards per carry. That's a plus 1.6 difference. And you watch Maryland, they had unstable offensive line. Quarterback play couldn't quite get a consistent passing game. Billy Edwards was always under pressure. But when Roman Hemby touched the ball, he deviated from the norm. So a bunch of people will see, 600 yards rushing, that's okay. But once you get that tinted window and you scratch the blurriness out the window, then you see, oh my goodness. Also Justice Ellison at Wake Forest, the running back they had a couple years prior. Wake averaged 3.4 yards per carry as a team. Justice Ellison was a 4.6 yards per carry guy. So he's pulling these guys who have sneaky good numbers. But because they're not 1,000-yard rushers, 5-yard per carry guys plus, the big programs are looking at it and saying, you don't have the production that we're looking for. Okay, but again, hidden production. Also, athletes. This is a huge thing for Kurt Cignetti. Roman Hemby ran a 4.43 40-yard dash. That's in the top 15% of NFL running backs. Roman Hemby had a 38.5-inch vertical, top 10% of NFL running backs. Roman Hemby had a 128 broad jump, so extreme lower body strength, top 7% of NFL running backs. You wouldn't know all of this, that he has all of this talent, because he was playing for a team that had an unstable offensive line and wishy-washy quarterback play. So you see that 600 yards and 4.7 per carry and say, that's lower tier power 4 numbers. That caliber, 3-star-ish numbers. But Kurt Cignetti sees a gem, A diamond, but Curt Cignetti sees a diamond in the rough. You just got to scratch that dirt off of it, and that diamond is shiny. Wide receivers, the same thing. Like the running back position, it's a mixed bag. He's going to get some guys out of high school. He's going to get some dudes in the portal. I want you guys to focus on Nick Marsh. Nick Marsh was a guy that Indiana got from Michigan State this year in the portal. 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. Again, kind of like Roman Hemby. What if I told you Michigan State was outside the top 75 in passing yards? What if I told you Nick Marsh actually had 1/4 of Michigan State's receiving yards? What if I told you that Michigan State's starting quarterback Aiden Childs was outside the top 110 in the FBS and adjusted completion percentage? So completions plus drops, is he accurate? In other words, is what the question is answering. All things, exterior things like Roman Hemby, that's out of Nick Marsh's control. What if I told you that Nick Marsh forced a missed tackle on 49% of his catches? What if I told you that led the entire FBS? Hidden production. They do look at the full body of work at quarterback. But running back and receiver, the skill positions, and tight end around the quarterback, they're looking for hidden production. Cignetti's not going to take a flyer on someone who hasn't proven it. He's going to take a flyer on someone who has proven it, but you just have to dust the glass off a little bit. And a lot of big programs aren't willing to do that sometimes, because they see those total numbers and see, ooh, this guy's an 11-yard rusher. Let's pay this much NIL money to this guy. Instead of just scraping that, what's the word? Instead of scraping that dust off the drawer. Nick Marsh, by the way, is 6'3", 210 pounds. All massive for a wide receiver. He runs a 4.38 40-yard dash. Dude's nearly built like A.J. Brown, and he looks like him after the catch. So Curt Cignetti is looking for a quarterback with a full body of work. He's looking at full body of work at the QB position. But running backs and receivers, he's looking for athletes with hidden production. I haven't even gotten to the most interesting part yet. The offensive line is by far the most interesting part of Indiana football. Because usually these teams that have no 5-star talent, TCU, Washington, that are really good at player development and make it super far, they are A tier on the outside. TCU, you talk about Max Duggan, Quentin Johnston. Washington, you look at Michael Penix, Rome Odunze, among many others. But on the inside, they get destroyed in the trenches. It's what happened at TCU against Georgia. It's what happened to Washington against Michigan. This Indiana O-line is absolutely hauling. This right here, I think, is the secret. How they evaluate offensive linemen, how they develop them, is something that is absolutely from another planet to what we've seen in college football. So here's some interesting stats that I discovered about Indiana's offensive line. High-end SEC offensive line, so like the best teams in the SEC, and I'm using the SEC because this is where the most 4- and 5-star talent is, weigh 320 plus. Indiana in 2025, average offensive line weighed 307 pounds. Cignetti, when he got to Indiana in 2025, Indiana's O-line was huge. They weighed 322 pounds. So you'd probably think that's a really good thing. That's what, a bunch of these big teams are looking for. These Alabamas, these Georgias, that's what they're looking for. Curt Cignetti made them trim 14 pounds. Indiana, the average size of their offensive line dropped from 322 pounds to 308 pounds in 2025. That's the 5th biggest weight loss for an offensive line in the whole FBS this year. Also, every single Indiana offensive lineman is sitting between 6'4" and 6'5", in their starting lineup at least. They also weigh in between 310 this year to 312 pounds. So a really specific weight, like no smaller than 6'4", no taller than 6'5", no leaner than 310 pounds, no stockier than 312. That's a really specific weight. So Curt Cignetti's staff here in the offensive line is clearly, instead of trending towards the bigger stock here, they want the quicker, the shiftier. And this doesn't work for everyone. Like LSU's offensive line lost more weight coming into this year than any other offensive line did in the country. And did you see what happened to their offensive line? So I don't think this is going to be a universal practice by any means, but whatever they're doing on the offensive line is something that we've never seen before. We've seen teams take quarterbacks and receivers and running backs that are underranked and develop them. We haven't seen this in the offensive line. Not to this level. Also, something interesting as well, I told you that Cignetti likes to use the portal 100% for quarterbacks, and running backs and receivers, it's kind of a mixed bag, but he's not afraid to go into the portal. Offensive line, Indiana signed just one O-lineman from the portal in 2026, 4 guys from high school. So he clearly values familiarity on that offensive line. Retained Carter Smith, Bray Lynch, they retain from the previous Indiana team when Cignetti got here, okay? And then in the portal, Khalil Benson, the right tackle, was originally playing for Indiana. When the previous coaching staff left, he went to Colorado. Cignetti goes and gets him back from Colorado to Indiana. So he clearly values the offensive line being very familiar and very experienced and comfortable with each other. Didn't retain any JMU guys. So that tells me that, yeah, size does matter a decent amount at that position. You want power for size and strength. But more than anything, continuity and familiarity is extremely important for him in this offensive line. The secret is in how he evaluates this position group, because it is something that we have never seen before. And FYI, Indiana's got 3 of 5 starters coming back next year on that O-line. Like, this is crazy. This is insane. So defensively, this is going to be a long video, but man, those of you that are still here, I appreciate you. They're willing to take defensive linemen from the portal, but I think D-line is kind of a mixed bag. Edge, he likes to get some athletes. But overall, D-lineman, still not quite figuring that out, because he got some guys retained from Indiana, some guys even brought from JMU. Kamara's from JMU. He turned out to be a stud. So, mixed bag. I want to focus on linebacker. Like O-line, this seems to be a hidden secret in here. Curt Cignetti has taken 0 linebackers from the portal these last 2 years, except one guy, their middle linebacker, Aiden Fisher. Those of you may not know Aiden Fisher's name, but you should know his name. Very familiar with the scheme. He's a senior. He played under Cignetti at JMU. Cignetti brought him from JMU to IU. Curt Cignetti has signed 7 linebackers from high school, and like I said, 0 from the portal these last couple years. So clearly, when you watch Indiana defensively, the first thing when you look at it in depth is, holy crap, who's number 4? Who's that Fisher guy? He is everywhere. He's blitzing. He's playing in man coverage. He's playing in zone coverage. Like, he is penetrating the gaps like no other. He's everywhere. And he's calling the plays. So Cignetti, this linebacker room clearly holds a ton of responsibility on this defense. He wants these guys to be as knowledged. That's not the right word. He wants these guys to be as knowledgeable in the system as you possibly could be. So he wants these guys developed, sitting year in and year out, like Aiden Fisher at JMU. Corner. This is the opposite of linebacker. Cignetti signed 6 cornerbacks in the portal and 3 from high school. You got Pons from JMU. You got Sharp from IU. Gardy from Pitt. All of those guys are under 190 pounds. You watch them on film. They're not the stockiest, but dang it, they are twitchy. Twitchy as you could possibly be. And you talk to Indiana's defensive back coach, Ala Adams. He's known for running basketball-like change of direction drills. So all of these corners get so twitchy. And they're undersized. Pons is 5'9", 175, man. But they are quick hips. Break to the ball like that. Lanning even said, I've never seen, like, these defensive backs break to the ball faster than anyone I've ever seen. And they're aggressive at the catch point. They are taught, you can clearly see it, that some corners are taught, be a little bit more conservative because you don't want to risk a big play if they catch the ball and you go for the ball and lunge for it. These corners are taught to completely play the ball as aggressively as humanly possible. And big play, so what? Indiana, under Bryant Haynes, runs a lot of cover 3. Now, it's so many different things. I'm not going to put this scheme into one thing only. But they do run more zone than man. And they do run more cover 3 than most programs out there. These dudes are quick. 2 of 3 safeties from the portal. Devin Boykin ran track in high school. 93% tackle rate at NC State. So you have that type of speed and tackling ability. Lewis Moore. Lewis Moore is such an intriguing one to me because he was at Ole Miss. Struggled. Didn't even start at Ole Miss, actually. But he played under Pete Golding, okay? And those of you, I'm sure Alabama fans, Ole Miss fans are very familiar. Pete Golding likes to run a lot of man-to-man. Some zones sprinkled in there, but a lot of man-to-man. Lewis Moore isn't the biggest guy. It's like 180 pounds, 5'9". So, struggled in that scheme. But Cignetti sees something. His staff sees something. He's just not in the right scheme. So he goes to Indiana and leads the Big Ten in interceptions. Like, Haynes used him perfectly. Just to say, all right, you're quick and you're twitchy. You're quick enough to keep everything in front of you. We're going to play more cover 3 and more zone, and we sense your ball hawk ability and your anticipation, maybe more so than your glue ability, your stickiness and man. We're going to use that. So in summary, on offense, absolute production at quarterback, athletes with hidden production at running back and receiver, familiarity, continuity at offensive line. D-line, we're still figuring out. It's kind of a mixed bag. Linebacker, absolute. Straight out of high school, fully developed. You have to know the system. Defensive backs, twitchy, speedy. All those defensive backs at Indiana, Pons is a 4.35 40 guy. Sharp is a 4.4. Boykin ran track. Moore is as quick as it gets as well. He ran a 4.35 40. All these guys are undersized. And because of it, they might not be as many stars in the portal, but they're quick and they're shifty. And they have anticipation. So, twitchiness in the secondary. Basically, both units have 2 guys that are responsible for kind of everything. Brainiacs, if you will. Mendoza went to Cal. He's a smart guy. Okay? And everyone around him is just more quick than you. I think most programs will trend in this type of direction when building a college football team. I will tell you one thing. I think quarterbacks are going to transfer more. I think the biggest losers in this are high school quarterbacks and linebackers that want to enter the portal. And another thing as well, last thing, because this video is long, as to how this is going to change the sport forever. Coaches are going to get fired quickly. Because a coach is going to say, I need 3 years, and to say, look what Kurt Cignetti did in 2 years. We're going to give you 2. And coaches are going to get fired. Because teams are going to see that and get impatient. Indiana just changed college football forever.